Alright guys, so I know it's been a really long time since I've made a YouTube video, but hey, I'm back at it again. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make this Magneto chest piece. It's kind of an experimental thing. Got the whole cape lifted up on the sides, and I'll even show you guys how to do that. And I also have these templates available in my Etsy shop. So those links will be down below, along with all my social media. Let's get to it. But once you get all of your cuts made, which all of these are all straight cuts, no angles on any of these edges. Before we heat, we're gonna start with all the undercuts. We've got just a regular undercut here for the chest, here for the neck, and then the only V-groove undercut is this line right here on each side. And let's go ahead and get that done. And if you're new to my channel and you don't know what undercuts are, it's where you cut the back side of the foam about halfway through. The regular standard undercut is just a single slice halfway through the foam. And if you notice, I'm not cutting this part right here. This is why I put an X right there. It's where I flip the pattern. So my undercut is only right here on the chest. I'll leave this part whole. And then for the V-groove, you want to make sure you've got a sharp blade, especially for these. You want to make sure you have a sharp blade in general, so that way you have smooth edges on your foam in order to glue together. But with these undercuts, you just hold it at an angle. And you just cut on each side of the Sharpie mark. In the V-groove, you'll get this kind of cut. And whenever you go to fold it over, you'll glue this together so it folds over like this. And on this side of the foam, you'll get that nice bend. Alright, so now all of the undercuts are made, and now it's time to apply some heat. And one thing I did also forget to mention is that I'm using 5mm foam that I got from Hobby Lobby. You can use 6mm or 4mm foam for this. And also on this back piece, I flipped it over as one piece, but I didn't cut all the way to the bottom. I left a little gap right here just so that way it will help stay together here at the bottom, because later on what we're going to do is we're going to add velcro here to the back so that way you can actually get it on and off. And as you'll notice, whenever you're heating up the foam, your undercuts will begin to open up. We're going to go several passes over this, once to really seal in the foam, and then as we go more over it, we'll apply more heat in certain areas, especially around the undercuts, where we will start kind of bending and molding and shaping into the shape that we want. And you want to make sure that you heat both sides of the foam as well. And then as you're heating, you can tell there's a color change where the foam is getting sealed. That's just all the pores closing up on the foam. And you can also see some of the undercuts already starting to push through. Now that is heated. I'm gonna start here at the chest, and I fold it like this, and then I bend it back this way. And I'll do the same thing for these. You do want to try to be somewhat careful doing this, because you could rip the foam, but if you do rip the foam, it's not going to be the end of the world. And you want to make sure that you are kind of molding and forming it to get that nice round shape on it. And if you have to, you know, you can always go back through and reheat certain areas to get the desired shape. Because you do have to do this while the foam is still warm and malleable in order to get it to hold the best shape. And see, for these undercut parts on the neck, you'll want to spread out these so that way you can get your low temp hot glue in there. You'll want to close this one down like that, so that way the foam is not fighting itself whenever you go to glue it all together. And you also want to make sure that you roll over the shoulder areas, make sure that they are the position that they should be pretty close. So like you want to roll over this, but pull this neck part up, which is also why you have these undercuts here that'll help with the positioning of that as well. And there you can see it's already starting to really take a good shape. And if you notice also on the back here, I don't actually have any undercuts. You can put undercuts on it if you'd like on the original neck guard. But I'm gonna go ahead and heat up the back. Alright, now that the back is heated, all I'm basically doing is grabbing this part and just rolling it over and making this bend. And also kind of so that way it has the curve to it right there. And that's going to help you whenever you go to glue these pieces together. But now that all these pieces are, for the most part heat formed, we're going to go ahead and apply hot glue in the undercuts, and from there we'll start putting it all together. And something that I would like to point out as well, whenever you are applying glue to the undercuts, just the normal undercuts like this, you want to really bend it back and open it more, really in the opposite direction than what it normally would be. Because what that's going to do is that's going to harden in that area, and then when you go to fold it in on itself, it's really going to make those muscles pop. Like for example, this gambit piece that I just recently finished up last night. All of these muscles on the ab are undercuts, filled with low temp hot glue, and you can see the effect that you can really get out of these undercuts. It is honestly by far one of the most useful techniques I think I've learned. And you may be wondering why I say low temp hot glue on these undercuts. And it is for the simple fact that it dries a whole lot faster than high temp hot glue. Bonus tip, with low temp hot glue, you can also do pretty neat things, kind of like adding bullet marks or weld lines on other props. Boom. So that way, when this dries and play this Plastidip, it'll look kind of like a bullet mark. You can also kind of add like a little bit like a super thin wisps, or not wisps, but you know, a little bit of extra textures there on the inside to give it that battle damaged look. Alright, now that all of the low temp hot glue is dried in the, I don't want to call it regular undercuts, now we apply contact cement in the two V-groove undercuts. And contact cement is also the main glue that we'll be using to hold this whole piece together. And if you are new to contact cement, you apply contact cement on both surfaces, wait for them to dry and get tacky, and then you apply them together. And then it is stuck together. Now, just fold them down like that. and that gets that look for you. And as you can tell, once you go to bend this the opposite directions, it really makes the muscles pop. And now we get to glue these together. And we'll do that by applying contact cement along this edge here, the corresponding edges here, and then we'll be lining up our hash marks as we glue. Alright, now all the easy parts are done. This will probably be like the most difficult part, is lining up these curves, because it is kind of a complex curve, and pushing and pulling the foam all together. But what I like to do to help kind of ease the pain on this is I will line up two edges first, and then I will push them together to the middle, trying to carefully line up my hash marks as I go. Like so. So that's one part. Now it's time to do the other side. Like that hash mark. But there we go. Alright, now we're going to work on the closure on the back. And what I'm doing here is I just got a strip of 2mm foam that I've marked here where I'm going to glue it, and Velcro will go on this side. And I've also marked on this the corresponding piece that will be glued, and it'll be like this on the inside. And then once you get it all glued, the Velcro will go right here, and it'll just Velcro right there. Alright, so I got my Velcro cut to length, and I'm using the sew on Velcro because it just glues on easier. So when you glue on the Velcro, you want to make sure that the rough side or the hook side is facing away from your body, just so that way it's just more comfortable. If you're wearing like a spandex suit underneath or anything like that, you don't want to hook it onto that and pulling out those fibers. So always put the soft side against facing your body. Just like that, we have a Velcro closure in the back. There we go. So next up, we're going to put the accent piece that goes along the edge of it. And for that, we're going to use 2mm foam, and as well as the template here. My template looks a little janky right now because I had to modify it, put some tape right there. But the pattern you'll get will not have this weird clear piece. It'll all be one piece. And I've also marked, the top, center, front. And at this point is where you will, if you have a piece of 2mm foam big enough, you'll lay it down, you'll trace one side, and then you'll flip it at that side, and you'll connect those two so it's all one piece. You want to make sure you go and mark the center so you can line it up with the center of the chest piece here. And we'll use contact cement to hold that down as well. Alright, so if you are rather ill-prepared like I was, I don't have a piece of 2mm foam big enough to just trace down this piece, flip it over, and keep it all one piece. So what I did was I got the craft foam sheets from Walmart, and I glued two of them together long ways. And it's still not quite big enough to do the full flip, but I got it most of the way. As you can tell here, there's a little gap right there. I'll just have to cut the little V out, glue it together. Alright, now that I have this piece cut out, I'm going to apply a little bit of glue here in the little V cut area. Alright, so the glue should be dry now. Leaving it flat on the table because I want to keep this piece just as flat as possible. Which, if there is a little bit of a seam line right there, it's not going to be that big of a deal because it'll match in with the crevice of the chest right here. And so now that I got that all marked out, let's get her glued. For bigger areas like this that I'm gluing down, I use a bigger brush. Alright, so I've only done about half of this, just because it's easier to deal with. So that way I'm not having to fight this other side trying to be glued down when I don't want it to. Alright, now that the glue on this side is dry, repeat the process. So actually, what I'm gonna do here is, so you can tell I've got some overlap right there. Grab my scissors and there is that. Alright, and now Magneto actually has these circle deals. Did the best possible thing I can think of to use as rivets. Googly eyes. Alright, so I looked up some reference images and got a pretty good idea of where I want my circles to be. I'm gonna wind up using 12 of these. Problem is currently I only have 9. So I need to make a trip to Walmart and get some more. And these are approximately 1.5 inches in diameter. Alright, so now I've got the amount of eyes glued on that I currently have until I get more. But anyway, so as I was gluing these on, I was originally using super glue, but the backs of these are actually so smooth that there's like not much for the super glue to bite onto. So it's actually worked out better to use contact cement on these rather than super glue. And one thing about Magneto's cape is that it has some flair. Well, what I mean by that is it seems like his cape is always drawn to where it floats up over. So we're going to try to mimic that. Okay, so this is attempt number 1. So I've got this 10mm scrap piece that's hot. And what I've done is I've got these little triangles marked here that I'll cut out, or I'll cut them up completely apart in those areas. And then I will glue them back like this. What that's going to do is that's going to give this kind of weird angle type thing. And then, so what the plan is to glue here and here, front and back. Well, first off, let's hope we get it going in the right direction. Like this. So that way, the cape will sit on it. And so basically the cape will cover this. And we'll have that resin type effect, I guess you'd call it. But the thing is, so the cape has to go over this and then here. So I'll only have to glue a section of it here and here. So that way the cape will be able to basically be in between the collar piece and this lift piece here. Then you have this. So this is what I'm going for. Hopefully it works. Alright, so I did a little bit of dry fitting and guesstimating as to where I think it should be. And I only put about, whether you can see that or not, about that much contact cement on it, because the cape does need to go basically in between this area right here. You can see on the inside there where I marked it out. Just like that. That is stuck. Probably right about there, I think. Let me just take a look inside here as to where these pieces are. So I'm basically pulling these things down so that way it kind of torques the shoulder piece a little bit, so this front piece is more up and it makes kind of a, I don't know, a weird shape. And so there I've got, I know where to place my glue. I can glue it right there. And I'm going to apply my glue and glue these down. Alright, and now these pieces are all glued in, and it looks even enough. Because I mean, these pieces will be covered by the cape anyway, because since there is a little bit of gap right here, I'll be stuffing the cape down in here, as well as back in here. And the cape will also be glued right along here. The first time I made one of these, I made these pieces out of like some wire, metal coat hanger wire, and I was not very pleased with how it turned out. I think with this method, it'll work much better. Okay, so I just did a little test fit with the cape to see how well these were to hold up, and it works out pretty nicely, but the cape does weigh these down a little bit, so it doesn't quite get the lift that I want. So in order to counteract that, I am basically going to get another piece of foam, put it, attach it to probably this edge right here, and have it come up and under and glue underneath here. So now I've got something that looks like this. And what I'm going to do is take these pieces and roll them up. Not roll them, but you know, put it underneath and kind of pull it back and glue it into place. And this is going to create basically a shell for the fabric to rest on. And so that way it'll stay in place. And just like that, this thing is ready for Plastidipping, well, other than the remaining eyes I still have to get and glue on, and then attaching the cape. Alright, and as you can tell, it has now been Plastidip. And once that silver is dried, I will be going with the Duplicolor metal cast purple. Alright guys, so I've got the collar piece painted, and it is ready for the cape to be glued on. Right now the cape is just kind of dry fit on there, tucked in there, kind of see where I want it. I got this fabric from Walmart. It's like $7 a yard, it's not bad. It's stretchy, and when you cut it, it doesn't fray at the ends. And what I've done was I kind of cut it into a square, and then as I placed it up here, I kind of cut a around the perimeter of this so I can tuck it up there and it'll fit easier without a bunch of wadded up fabric. Okay, so I'm not done with it yet, but what I've done is I've glued it here in the middle, and then I've turned it and I've glued it right here under this little piece sticking out right here. So that way you can take this right here and fold it up and over, and it gives it that nice lifted folded cape look right there that Magneto always has. So I'll push that up, put a little bit of glue in there, pour it quickly so it doesn't like run. Then I'm basically just kind of shoving this up in there like that, so that way that is secured right there. Apply some glue here on the back. I grab this and I wrap it behind like that. And of course I'll go through and I'll tuck in the areas up here, and I'm going to take, actually once I get that, I'm going to take this neck piece off the mannequin here, and then I'll flip it over and I'll be gluing it along the inside. And what we're going to do is we're just going to get our high temp hot glue, and we're going to secure these areas so that way this cape stays on. These little, or you could just tuck it in there actually. And that might even be enough to hold it for a long period of time. And you do it like that. That's pretty much it for this whole thing, unless you want to weather it or add any battle damage or anything like that to it. You could just take some silver rub and buff or some silver spray paint, spray it on a rag, and just very lightly go over these the edges of the collar piece, maybe a little bit over the rivets here. And this is what it looks like back on the mannequin, so you can really see the lift of the cape. Not too bad for an experiment. Well, alright guys, that does it for this video. I hope you guys learned something. I hope this video was very helpful for you. And you know, of course, as always, if you guys use my templates, I love to see what you guys come up with. If you alter them or anything like that. So feel free to tag me on Instagram and Facebook at ThatIdealCosplay. And here's how this one looks all put together.